Just leave, I did lay it on the table there. There, thank you very much. Council.
And it's all good.
Once again, we called the meeting to order at 6:30. Commissioner Wendy Phillips, Chair, present. Commissioner Kathy Brandt Rucker, Vice Chair.
Present.
Commissioner Colleen Fried, Secretary. Here. Commissioner Jim Richards.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Sorensen.
Here.
Commissioner Paul Pendergrass.
Here.
Consulting City Planner Phil Carlson.
Here.
And Consulting City Engineer Joe Palin. Is Joe here this evening?
No.
I don't believe so. Very good. Okay, moving to the approval of the agenda for the evening. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Commissioner Phillips, you had informed me that you
Right.
wanted to amend the agenda. Is that still? Please.
Yeah, I would like to amend the agenda under, it actually was unfinished business from last month, which is Irv talking about, what he's gonna do for his barn that had, been set on fire and burned down, for that. And then the other, under new business would be to take a look at, the mobile home that there was in town.
So would you like to make a motion to add
I'd like
those
to make a
two,
friendly motion to add that to the agenda, please.
to add those two items?
Yeah.
One to unfinished business and one to new business?
Yes,
So it'd be under new business.
It would be-
under.
yeah, it could be, yeah,
Unfinished.
it would be the. Okay, and we'll do that for the moment.
Okay, so the manufactured home would be B under new business. And Herb's Garage would be B under unfinished business. Are there any further amendments to the agenda? So is there now a motion to approve the amended agenda?
I'll make that motion to.
Second,
Agenda is amended.
is there a second?
I'll do a second.
It is moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Agenda is amended. Is approved as amended, rather. So we're moving on to the approval of the minutes from November 15, 2023 meeting. I have a couple of things here. Under new business on the first page, in A1, the third line down, starting in the second line, says the commission to discuss a proposed development on the Cedar Woodlands residue. I don't think that is residue, and I didn't know which word that was supposed to be.
I think it does say residue on there.
If it does, that's fine. I just, for whatever reason, that didn't make sense to me.
I think it did because I think what it is the land that hasn't been developed that was part of the original.
So that is
That's
the
what,
proper
because
term.
I remember coming up with that and thinking that's weird.
Is that Cedar Woodland second edition? Because when they did the first edition, the only thing that was outside of Cedar Woodlands was a 300-foot wide strip to include that road.
Could be the residual.
Maybe residual,
I-
right? I don't
I
know.
remember looking at it, but it was on the, maybe it was on the agenda or on their
Their
proposal.
proposal. Okay, and that's fine. If that's the case, I just had a question about
Yeah,
it. So we'll
that's-
leave that as it is. Thank you,
I'll
Colleen.
look it up and double check.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then on the second page, under number 4, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth line down, the last word at the end of the line should have been long-term. So we just need to add an M to the word term.
And number 4, you said,
Under number 4 on page 2.
right?
On page 3. Under unfinished business, number 3, there are 2 finalists. WSB, that is WSB. If we could go ahead and change that. And then tell me if I'm going too fast, Colleen.
I'm trying to find all this stuff too.
3.
I got that. That's not here. Oh, WSB, okay, it's gonna be,
And then on the same page, in line 1 at the bottom of the page, you've got under other business. Commissioners wondered why fees have been collected on
Have
some
not
of,
been-
thank you. Yeah, that was the
Have not.
question, just have not been. And that was everything that came to my attention.
Should be in
So are there any further corrections to the minutes? If there are no further corrections, is there a motion to approve the minutes of November 15th?
I make a motion to approve the November.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to approve the corrected minutes of November 15th. Excuse me. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Minutes for November 15, 2023 are approved as corrected.
And I'll abstain since I wasn't there.
You'll abstain?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. On November 15, there was a motion passed to table the approval of minutes for September 14, October 12, and the RFP interviews, and to move those to the month of December. However, with Kathy, who was going to take care of that for us, having had an ongoing family emergency over the last 6 weeks, I would like to entertain a motion to table that again for approval in our January meeting. So would anybody like to make a motion to move approval of minutes for September 14, October 12, and RFP interviews to the January meeting?
I make a motion to, move those to the January meeting.
Was there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move the approval of those sets of minutes to the January meeting. Is there any further discussion?
There is a draft, I just want to point out, there is a draft online, correct? For everybody to see of what's potentially there, right?
For September
September
14?
one, I know was out
The
there.
draft one should be out there somewhere, just so people can still see them, but.
Yep. And I don't know that Sunny did the draft one for the October, because I just got an email asking me then to do it, so,
I wasn't here.
yeah.
Yeah, it just, so, you know, you weren't
Yeah,
here.
between-
Just to be clear, we all agreed that we won't wait for final minutes. We'll put draft out there and watermark them as draft. So then people can see them, but they won't be in final form, and at some point they would be.
Until we.
I think I did that
Right,
on
until
the.
they're approved.
Mhm.
We did on this one, yeah.
That was
Okay.
great.
So it's been moved and seconded to move those sets of minutes to the January meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. So the motion is passed, and September 14, October 12, and RFP interview minutes are being moved to the January meeting. So we have a public hearing tonight regarding the application for lot split and variance at 450 Second Avenue Northwest, and the applicant is Steve Bolletz. And so we are going to go ahead and open up the public hearing at 6:41 PM. And if there is anybody that would like to speak, to make a public comment, there are forms at the podium. If you'd like to go ahead and fill out a form and turn that in to me, then the speakers will have 3 minutes and you'll be heard in turn for the order in which you turned those comment forms in. So what I'd like to do at this time is do the first call for public comment. And Mr. Holletz, if you would like to speak, would you like to get up and address the commission at this
Sure,
point?
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for, this has been a learning process for me. This started in July. My youngest daughter has been, I've been trying to buy a house or build a house. It came up that she mentioned, hey, you got this lot. I said, okay, well, let me check into it. So I came up here in July and started trying to get guidance on what I need to do and everything. And I said, I don't have a clue what to do. And I've had, I was told I had to get it surveyed and everything, and I did that, and I tried to do everything that the city had told me I had to do. $2,500 later, I hope I've done everything, and I hope for her sake. I guess I got the report from the city, and I think the only question I had on that report was it asked to verify where the line is to my old garage or the garage that is now, and I'm not quite sure what that means. I mean, when they came and surveyed it, I told them I need to have it so that they can build a house there and everything's right. They said, well, if it's good, but I mean, if that's their legal opinion or not. So I took it that everything's good. So hopefully it'll get approved and she can move on. She's excited. So, thank you.
Well, and if there are questions that come up as we're moving through this process, please don't hesitate to speak
Okay.
up. And
Yeah.
we would be happy to address your questions. We may have questions as well.
Sure,
So
sure.
this will be a conversation tonight,
It's
okay?
good to me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, if I could comment here. Can you hear me? Okay, the question may refer to something in my report where I said that the location of the garage on the survey drawing is not the same as what shows up on the aerial photo. And there's a graphic on the second page of my report that shows that. You can see they're quite a bit off. So when I see something like that, it's like, it kind of brings a question as to whether, in fact, the survey is accurate. So that was my question. It does appear as though at least the south line of both the line on the drawing and on the aerial is about 6 feet from that new lot line, if this lot split is approved. So that would meet the setback, but the discrepancy in the location of the garage itself is something that kind of puts up a red flag for me.
Thank you, Phil. I have a form here from Patsy Matz. Patsy, would you like to go ahead and address the commission?
My house backs up to Steve's house, and I would like to encourage anything and everything to be done to enable his daughter to build her house there. Right now, it's a nice grass lot, but I'm a real advocate for affordable housing, and I know there's not enough of it. My daughter and her husband moved over behind Gas and Go, $700,000 homes. Most people can't afford that, and I just really encourage to be able to have a young family move in. I also see the advantage of an older couple. Usually the young people are building a mother-in-law house out back for them. Here, it's the parents offering the land for their daughter. And as they get older, they'll be right next door to each other to take care of each other. So if anything can be swayed, I would like to say I'm 100% for it.
Thank you so much. So this is going to be the second call for public comments. And third call for public comments. And we are closing public comments at 6:47 PM. So we'll move to the planner's report. Phil, do you want to do the planner's report or would you like me to do that?
The planner's report,
Just to report the findings and the recommendations?
oh, yes, yes. Yeah, no, I'd be glad to summarize that. So the lot split is fairly simple and straightforward. And as you can tell from the report, we're simply in this interim period before the lot sizes have been changed to accommodate sewer. So the request is perfectly reasonable as long as certain conditions are adhered to. So this is two separate requests, even though they're closely intertwined. The lot split recommend approval of it with conditions, 5 conditions, that it is conditioned on a variance being approved for the lot size itself, since 20,000 square feet is the minimum, and this new lot would be 13,000 some square feet. I also mentioned as a condition, just confirm the location of the garage, since the survey drawing and the aerial photo don't seem to be in alignment. There's also 2 temporary sheds shown on the survey that appear to be at or maybe over the lot line. And so if the survey stakes are in the field, it would be good to have that verified and just make sure that we don't have structures that cross a property line. And also, the most important is that this new lot, parcel B, would not be allowed to have a building permit until city sewer is actually available, which we understand is very soon. And just that all other engineering requirements and charges, fees be paid before that lot is built on. And the findings are fairly simple. Stephen Holitz owns the lot. The existing lot is 34,000 some square feet, and he's proposing these 2 new lots. And the minimum in the code is 20,000 square feet, which is why this is necessary. And that the city is likely to reduce the minimum lot size to something near or below that 13,000 square foot new lot size. And a 5th finding that there's a 6-foot setback required, and it appears that the new one will meet that. And 6th finding, just repeating that we want to verify the location of the garage. So with that, I would suggest the commission take separate motions on these, and with those conditions or findings, as you might want to modify them, recommend approval of the lot split.
Bill, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, for finding of facts, it requires, it says that we have the 6 foot for the side lot lines. Isn't there a 25 foot off the back lot line requirement?
Yes, and that is easily met. I didn't mention it, but yes, you're right. The 6 foot was the one that really comes into play with the new lot line that's being created.
Right, but if we're having to move that shed. We're having to move one of them sheds to bring it 6 foot in. Does it have to go 25 feet off the back line as well?
Yes, good point. Thank you. That could be put as a condition. That could be in condition number 3, that the location be verified and the sheds moved to meet the required setback if necessary to move them. Yeah. Good point.
So I guess I'm confused now. If the back lot line requires a setback of 25 feet and the sheds might have to be moved 25 feet from that line, how is it that the garage is okay just 6 feet from the line?
The side.
We're talking about 2 different lines. The side is the new line between the 2 new lots. The rear would be the back the east side lot, or to the right
Oh,
on
those
these
go down
drawings.
both the lots. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking the back of the lot would be the line between them, but it's actually along the side.
Right.
Okay, so we've been recommended to look at this one issue at a time. And so let's go ahead and talk about the lot split first. And I'm going to just reiterate here that for the lot split, Phil has recommended that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the lot split at 450 Second Avenue Northwest for Steve Stoletz as submitted on the survey from WSC Massey Engineering and Land Surveying Limited, dated July 31, 2023, with the following conditions. The lot split is conditioned on a variance being approved for the lot size of parcel B, which is 13,344 square feet, is below the city's current minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. Number 2, the lot split is approved if the location of the existing garage on parcel B can be confirmed as being at least 6 feet from the new side lot line with parcel B. If the setback is less than 6 feet, the survey shall be adjusted to maintain a minimum 6-foot setback, as such adjustment may be approved by the city engineer without additional review by Planning and Zoning Commission or City Council. Number 3, the location of 2 temporary sheds in the southeast corner of parcel A need to be verified and the sheds moved if necessary so they do not straddle the lot line. Number 4, a building permit will not be issued for new parcel B until city sewer is available to the lot to be verified by the city engineer. Number 5, all other engineering requirements of the city engineer will be met before a building permit is issued for parcel B and all city fees and charges paid. So I just wanted to make sure that we were good with that, Mr. Holetz, and that was all very clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So, speaking of the lot split, I'm going to go ahead and open up the discussion with the commission.
It was my understanding that there was a sewer connection that has already been placed there along with a water connection also, which was done prior to us even taking a look at doing the split. I'm not happy with that being done without being talked about or brought here first, that you were going to be doing that, and the engineer and the building did it on their own. So I'm concerned that we don't continue to do that and make those same adjustments without coming and discussing it, what it's going to be. I still don't know what the cost is, and Phil, maybe you have that for what we're going to be able to charge for that, putting that connection in.
Yeah, well, good. Commissioners, that kind of charge would be included in the sewer charges that would be charged to the new lot. And the cost of adding that new extension, I don't know what it is, but it's really relatively minor in the scheme of things. And when the street and everything is torn up to install the sewer, adding that kind of connection is a very minor part of the project, and really is kind of a smart thing to do if you know there might be something like that coming. Putting that connection in does not require the city to give him a new lot, does not require that it be connected or that a lot split be approved. It's just a good heads up thing rather than waiting, whatever it would be, however many months, and then say, oh, he's got a new lot. Let's dig up the street again and put in this little piece of pipe connection. So it's the kind of thing that I guess I've seen many times where there are changes made in the field that again are relatively minor, and it's just a smart thing to do as the project is being built.
Yeah, my concern is that once we've done this, we're presenting a precedent again, that somebody else could come to us and say, we're doing a lot split, and this lot split was done, and the city put in that junction at little of no cost and expect another one to be done that way.
Well,
So that's my concern too on that, Phil,
yeah. Well, again, putting the pipe in does not require the city to grant the lot split, and the cost would be borne by the property owner in any event. So again, it's just it makes for a convenient and a smart way to do the project up front.
So,
Go ahead, Jim.
so help me understand that connection that's put in. I'm assuming the city has already paid for that, correct?
I would assume so. I don't know the exact details of that, but what's referred to in the engineer's comments that I included in my report are that there are sewer and water charges that will be charged back to the property when they hook up, and so the cost of the connections are part of what's recouped in those sewer charges.
Yeah, we were just trying to figure out what those charges are because we're right in the process of trying to figure out what we're gonna be doing for sewer charges overall. And then those charges are different than the connection charges going in that somebody else would be paying. So I just, wondered if we had that and just to be cautious that we don't do that on a regular basis.
Doesn't this belong more to Sewer and Water Commission than to Planning and Zoning Commission?
I think as I read this, the condition number 5 should include whatever that extra fee
And
is.
that's what I just was trying to
Yeah.
figure out what the
Yeah.
fees are,
The dollar
okay, and not to
amounts.
go without, being addressed.
And I think we're saying that this lot split is a bad thing.
No, I'm not, it's kind of, Which-
Can I make a comment? Are we allowed to make comments?
Hold on just a moment. Did you want to finish your thought?
well, again, that's just, my concern on, which came first, the chicken or the egg. And we understand you're looking at that lot split, but, you went ahead and did that at a city expense prior to everything coming in and being approved, and that's not the way we like to have that done at all. So that's,
I don't know if it was necessarily the property owner saying, do it. I think on the city side, somebody would have had to say, we're gonna do this. So,
but I mean,
Yeah.
it's figuring out that too, on who gave the permission
Well,
to do that, is where.
yeah.
what it's actually boiling down. What it's actually boiling down to is the city did the same thing for that lot, for the Hollett's property twice.
What?
You dig in the 15 or 20 feet off of the right of way for the sewer connection. And then they did it again in another spot for the lot split. Every house that has a sewer connection, they've done that for. Now, this house has had it done twice. Clarification, just
Mr.
clarify.
Collette?
Yeah,
Yes.
just to clarify, I didn't ask for it. They were coming along there. And then, and they said, what's going on there? And I said, well, that's a lot. Some they might build. And they said, we're going to do that then. And there is no water there. There's no water there.
And can
Thank
I-
you for that clarification, Mr. Hollatz. Yes.
But the other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what my understanding was that Mr. Hollett was told he had to get the survey done, which I believe was done maybe July or
First part of August.
first part of August.
Yeah.
And so he was waiting and waiting and waiting for you guys to be able to approve the variance. But in order to lay the asphalt on top of there, et cetera, would have cost so much more, not only to get it put in later, but also the delay of being able to build the house to get it going on time, because it does take some time to get all these approvals done. And like you said, by the time now we're in December to try to get this variance done, it would have been long after that asphalt got put down, which we were trying to get done before winter.
Thank you.
I'd just like to have, those charges at least be identified of what that's gonna be for that extra amount that's there, and not just have it set up for what there is for the sewer, because it was two different sewer lines that we brought into that instead of one. Okay, and that was at the city's expense to be able to do that.
Were you told, Mr. Hollett, that there was going to be two different charges for those lines? No?
But you would agree to pay it either
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
because it's your
Of
daughter.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got to pay to have the water hooked up too. I told her that, you know, whatever it costs, you're gonna have to hook up to the water. She expects that, or we expect that.
Mhm.
So I do like the conditions that were listed here by Phil for the approval of the lots.
Mhm.
And I do agree with the approval, but I do think we certainly need to address your concerns there. Could just clarify where it's saying all other engineering requirements and ends with the all city fees and charges paid to include the additional fee for the additional line or something to that effect. Is that kind of what we're thinking? Just to call it out that we know that it's there and it
Right,
should be one of those fees included
right,
there.
exactly.
Maybe,
And isolated, yeah.
maybe, all city fees and charges paid to include parcels A and B.
The sewer for. parcel-
Sewer and water for
Parcels
parcels A and B.
Yeah. I think
Is that
would be-
agreeable?
Yep, because that would address your concerns that there's an extra line run that we need to make sure gets covered, not on the backs of everybody else in town,
Right,
which
exactly.
they've agreed to. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Common sense there.
Absolutely.
And then do we have to read through the findings of fact, Wendy, at all, or? we can go
I
with
believe
what-
so. I think we should. So the findings of fact for the lot split. Stephen Hollett owns the existing lot at 450 Second Avenue Northwest in Orinoco. Number two, the existing lot is 34,300 square feet in area. The lot split proposes a new parcel A of 23,705 square feet and a new parcel B of 13,334 square feet as depicted on the certificate of survey prepared by WSE Massey Engineering and Land Surveying Limited dated 7/31/23. Number three, the city's zoning code has a minimum residential lot size of 20,000 square feet. Municipal sewer is expected to be available soon to the property. The city is considering reducing the minimum lot size standard once sewer is available. Number four, the 13,344 square foot size of parcel B is likely to meet the minimum lot size that the city will adopt for new sewer lots and is therefore a reasonable size for a new lot if connected to municipal sewer. Number five, the city's zoning code has a minimum side setback for structures of 6 feet on residential lots. The zoning code requires lot splits to result in parcels that meet all zoning standards. Number 6, the existing garage on parcel A of the proposed lot split will meet or will be advised to meet the 6-foot side setback to the new lot line. So as we're talking about setbacks, do we need to also include those two buildings that are going to be along the lot line between parcels A and B?
Wendy, I think we could put that under the conditions of approval for lot split on number 3, that we had prior to the finding of fact there. So the location of the 2 temporary sheds in the southeast corner of parcel A, we already have it, needs to be verified and the sheds moved if necessary. So they do not straddle the lot line. Could we add there and meets all setback requirements?
I think
you need to.
I think that that would be a good addition.
Did you
We
want
add that on number 3, that would.
It
speak
says
to
all
your-
setback requirements. come
Yeah, that would be the
lines.
25 feet too that you were talking about. from
So
the very-
sheds moved if necessary, so they do not straddle the lot line and
Meet
meet
all
all
setback
setback
requirements,
requirements.
period.
Okay,
Because that would cover the point you had brought up there, Paul.
The 25 feet from the rear.
okay. So we have gone through conditions of approval of lot split and the findings of fact for approval of lot split.
I would make a motion, Wendy, if it would be okay, that we approve the lot split with the conditions of approval of lot split as listed with number 3 and number 5 with those 2 modifications as discussed, as well as the findings of fact for approval of lot split as written out by Philip there, the 6 of those, but with no changes on those as written.
Okay,
I'll second.
so there has been a motion and a second to approve the lot split with the addition of information to conditions of approval of lot split, numbers 3 and 5, with findings of fact for lot split as written by the city planner. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will go to the vote. All those in favor of granting the lot split for Stephen Haletz at 450 Second Avenue Northwest, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion has passed. Lot split is granted.
So you had said that there were 2 votes that you wanted to take?
Well, there's
The other one is for the variance.
Okay, all right, so,
And then this would go to council.
yes.
Yes, both.
Yep.
Mhm. So now, our city planner has recommended that Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the variance to the lot size of parcel B in the lot split at 450 Second Avenue Northwest for Stephen Haletz as submitted on the survey from WSE Massey Engineering and Land Surveying Limited dated 7/31/2023 with the following conditions. Conditions of approval of variance. Condition number 1. The variance to the lot size of parcel B is valid only if the lot split is approved by the city and recorded with the county and if sewer is available to the lot. Number 2, all other engineering requirements of the city engineer will be met before a building permit is issued for parcel B and all city fees and charges paid. So findings of fact for approval of variance. Number 1, Stephen Haletz owns the existing lot at 450 Second Avenue Northwest in Orinoco. Number 2, new parcel B in the lot split is proposed to 13,334 square feet as depicted on the certificate of survey prepared by WSC Massey Engineering and Land Surveying Limited dated 7/31/23. Number 3, the city's zoning code has a minimum residential lot size of 20,000 square feet. Municipal sewer is expected to be available soon to the property. The city is considering reducing the minimum lot size standard once sewer is available. Number 4, the 13,344 square foot size of parcel B is likely to meet the minimum lot size that the city will adopt for new sewered lots and is therefore a reasonable size for a new lot if connected to municipal sewer. Number 5, the city's zoning code has a minimum side setback for structures of 6 feet on residential lots. The zoning code also requires lot splits to result in parcels that meet all zoning standards. Number 6, the existing garage on parcel A of the proposed lot split will meet or will be revised to meet the 6-foot side setback to the new lot line. Number 7, the request meets the criteria for approving a variance in section 151.401. Any comments? We're speaking of the variance.
On the condition of approval of the variance for number 1. In the second line, it says, and recorded with the county and if sewer is available. I'd like to change the word if to when.
Okay.
Sewer will be available.
So the new condition would read, number 1, the variance to the lot size of parcel B is valid only if the lot split is approved by the city. Do you want to change the word if in both lines or just in both lines?
Change if to when there, and there's an also on the,
On the second line.
I think it's on the,
No, I think you-
It's been approved. It's just if, it says if sewer is available. I want to change it to
When
when
sewer
sewer
is
is available.
So
Mhm.
just the
And the
second.
same thing on the,
So just the second one?
correct, just the second line.
Okay. So let me,
There's the same thing in. Oh, it's the same thing in another one of the lines, right? I believe it's on the next page.
I think it might be number 4 under findings of fact. That starting at
It says
the first line, city will adopt for new sewered lots and is therefore a reasonable size for a new lot if connected, say when connected
when-
there.
Yep.
So the change that's been made is in under variance for conditions of approval of variance. Number 1, the variance to the lot size of parcel B is valid only if the lot split is approved by the city and recorded with the county and when sewer is available to the lot. And then moving into findings of fact for approval of variance number 4, the 13,344 square foot size of parcel B is likely to meet the minimum lot size that the city will adopt for new sewered lots and is therefore a reasonable size for a new lot when connected to municipal sewer. Okay? Any other comments?
Makes sense.
Mhm.
I would make a motion that we approve the variance.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the variance. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of approving the variance for 450 Second Avenue Northwest, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion is passed. The variance is granted.
No, we got, goes to city
By the
council.
Oh, well, that's true. So there is a caveat with this. And that caveat is that we are an advisory commission only. And so I will be forwarding our recommendation to city council, and they will be taking this under consideration in their next meeting, which is on December 19th, Tuesday, December 19th. And the council is the final authority in this decision, but you're over a hurdle here. So congratulations, Mr. Holtz.
And you have 3 council members sitting here. so.
Your little ace in the hole, right?
There you go.
Or 3 aces in the hole.
Something like that.
I have a question here.
Yes,
I missed who moved and seconded the lot split.
Kathy moved the lot split
I
First.
seconded it.
and Jim Richards seconded.
I thought I had that somewhere then. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I made a motion for variance.
And I seconded.
Yeah, I got that.
Jim and Jim.
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe that we are complete with the lot split and variance for the Holettes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Have a wonderful evening. Merry Christmas. So we're going to move on to new business. And the first item of business is you have a commissioner whose term is ending on December 31st. And that commissioner would be me. And so if you guys would like me to continue as a commissioner, then maybe somebody would like to make a motion to that effect.
I make a motion that you continue as the chair.
Second, We were going for commissioner only. I think chair is in January, right?
Or-
So there has been a motion and a second for me to continue into a new 3-year term as a commissioner on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I just feel like I'm supposed to hand this over to you, Kathy, because it's about me. So maybe you'd like to walk us
I
through
would
the
be
portion.
happy to.
Thank
So
you.
right now on the floor, I do have a motion from Jim there to recommend that you continue for another 3-year term, and it has been seconded. Any discussion? At this point, it is just as a commissioner role. Although I agree with you come January that the chairmanship is has a very good home right now. But if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, there we have that one for the minutes.
And that goes to council as well.
Does it?
Yeah,
I believe so.
It might, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
council makes
Okay.
the final call.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you, Kathy. Next item of new business is discussion regarding manufactured home.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that, and I think we had it last time, on the minutes that we had approved. And it was under number 3. And that was under other business. Okay, which it came up. So, it's just a concern of mine, and there's a difference between what I would look at as being a mobile home, either manufactured home, although manufactured home is a mobile home, but I think that there's a big difference. If you take a look under what we've got for our planning and zoning, and I'm looking at 151 dash or .208. Manufactured home and recreational vehicles under planning and zoning. Manufactured homes, number 1, new manufactured home parks is how it's recommended or spelled out here as being parks. Number 2, for existing manufactured home parks or lots of record. And so looking at that and where this was located is not in a park, but it's at Third Street Southeast. And it's just a concern on how this got into the city without coming to planning and zoning or looking at everything I think that was associated with it. And so my concern is, what are we gonna do to make sure that that doesn't happen in the city going forward? That you have single wide mobile homes that are popping up everywhere that necessarily shouldn't be. And should be, you know, restricted to, they say manufactured home parks.
My other concern, or I'll add my concern on that too, is we just heard it now. You know, we, in terms of the folks that have just left, we stated they have to have city sewer. And I don't know, as I understand it, this one has a holding tank.
As a holding
And
tank.
is not hooked up to city sewer yet, but we're telling others they can't build until they're hooked up to city sewer. I think it's somewhat of a double standard. You know, and I think that probably happened because it did not come through planning and zoning first. And I guess I would like to understand really where the breakdown was, if anybody knows why that didn't come to this commission first
For approval.
for approval.
I have no answer for that. I found out about it at the same time you did.
Which was after the fact. and
Which
it
was after it
and
was
you were
already-
Being brought in, and I
I
think,
seen them skirting it one day. And then, whoa.
And I think, doesn't it say here somewhere, I was reading that it has to be on a permanent
Has to be on a permanent
foundation, and stilts or piers is not
permanent foundation.
considered a permanent foundation. So I have concern.
Didn't approve it, just showed up one day.
It just showed up
It
one
just
day
showed up, right.
and they evidently,
Issued out of City Hall.
without going to
That's what-
planning and zoning.
Without going to planning and zoning or city council. And evidently it's not up to code because it's not on a permanent foundation.
It's just a skirted trailer. It's hooked up to a holding tank, my impression.
I think, I mean, isn't there fines if you're not up to what the code says you have to be, which there's no way this is going to be?
Well, and I think that's one issue, but I think the other issue is how did it happen with not being, you know, according to code,
Right.
that it was even approved to go in?
And it's. being
And
lived
why
in.
were we not notified?
The residents are living in the house now.
Right, my thought was if let's say this happened in Rochester,
Mhm.
It'd be gone.
you would, yeah, basically, yeah,
Yeah,
you would
you would
start,
have to
you would
move it.
start paying fines repeatedly until it's,
Until
until
it
the
was
situation's
removed?
corrected.
Mhm.
And that would be black and white, no gray area there. That would happen like right now.
Mhm.
If they had to come hook up a truck and drag it off there, they probably would.
Mhm.
I don't know why it should be any different for us.
I agree. And I don't think it's fair to the neighbors that all of a sudden there's a trailer home right next to their place if it's not meeting code,
Right,
because we're setting a precedence.
Yeah.
So if we allow that, and I had received a call from somebody that said something to that fact. They said, well, I've got enough property, I could split mine and put a mobile home in and rent it. And have extra
Yeah.
income in it.
So the president was there and I want to stop it so it doesn't go any further.
Yeah,
And to take a look at what's really going on with the existing to start out with, where I don't think that we should have given a building permit for them in the first place to be able to put that in.
and so what is the course of action at this point? Because it's on the lot. There are people living in it. What is the recourse through city council or through city hall? Is there anything that has happened like this in the past that we could look back over or?
Bill, you have anything in the past that this happened before?
Well, these kinds of things happen from time to time. I'm not familiar with any in Orinoco, but yeah, a mobile home that is not on a permanent foundation simply isn't allowed, and it's something that the city building official should simply say must be removed, must stop, and if it doesn't, then turn it over to law enforcement. This is, yeah, I mean, you're right. This is a situation that just isn't allowed. And it's very different than the situation if someone wanted to build on a permanent foundation, a home that was manufactured offsite. That's different.
And we
There's
all
all-
agree with
yeah,
that
yeah.
100% on that.
So this is a situation that it simply has to be stopped. And so it's not a planning and zoning commission task. It's building inspector and law enforcement.
Thank you, Phil. Does that complete that conversation?
Well, we'll have to move that to city council.
But it completes it for planning and zoning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're gonna make a recommendation that go to city council and be discussed?
Yeah, I make a recommendation that we'll send that to city council. Be great.
Do we need to, you make a motion to do that?
Yeah, I make a motion that we move this issue to city council and for us to move from that point to law enforcement or building inspections. That needs to be done.
Okay. So there's been a motion to move this conversation to the city council. Is there a second?
So is the motion simply to move the discussion to council, but you also added
Law enforcement
the building inspector,
and law enforcement.
right?
Phil.
But how are we gonna phrase that?
Yeah, how do you?
Phil, you have a good way to phrase that?
For the motion?
You're muted.
He's muted.
Should be referred to the building official, and then the building official could refer it to law enforcement if needed.
So we don't even need to take it to council, correct? We just move it to the building inspector.
Well, I believe the building inspector should have the authority to stop and, issue an order for somebody to cease what they're doing without needing specific council approval.
Let me ask.
Is that right, Shirley?
Let me ask the question though, Phil. If they come back and say, well, I've been given a building permit. what-
Well, and I'm not familiar. So was there an actual building permit that was issued for
There-
this?
Evidently, there was one from what I understand. Again, all I did was see a number, when I got that information, it said that it hadn't been paid, which was a question that I had, but there was a permit, and I understand that the people were pretty aggressive and belligerent on trying to force this from what Renee had to say
Okay.
to get it done. So
Well, if as I understand it, this is there and it isn't allowed, and a building permit was issued, that building permit then may have just been issued in error. And then the city council probably should step in. And it's clear in many kinds of cases that an error on the part of city staff does not excuse someone from following the codes. So even if somehow this slipped through or just wasn't understood properly, and the building official, and they did get an official building permit from the city, that can still be corrected, rescinded, and they could be removed, because the city gets to enforce its codes, regardless if city staff, if there's some kind of oversight by city staff.
Basically, it's a clerical error.
Thank you, Phil. So
Thanks.
surely, if I'm understanding this correctly, we don't need to make a motion or anything at this point. We're handing it over to you and you're gonna do some research and you're going to advise us as to if there's anything that we need to do as a body.
Sounds very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Bill, for clarification.
Thank
I
you,
really
Bill.
appreciate
Okay, so moving into unfinished business. We've been ongoing with our RFP and our city planning process. We are moving into contract negotiation. And so, Kathy, was there something that you wanted to share with us at this point about?
I think it was just making sure everybody's still kept in the loop as much as possible,
Right.
that the contract's been received from WSB. And just standard is you get a contract from one side, you go out and you have your attorney, or if there's other best practices out there in the industry, that language that's common that should be inserted into the contract. And at the end, you have one that you both agree on. And I think we're kind of they've got theirs, we're trying to gather our information and merge it and then move it forward, so.
Well, and that was the thing that you and I, as we sat and read through the contract together, it was very one-sided.
Yep. And
All protections in place for WSB, which is understandable. And now we're in the process of creating the other side of that
Yep.
contract.
And I think
So-
that's pretty common is their
Absolutely.
attorneys write it with their thoughts in mind and our side will come along with our thoughts and then you end up with one that hopefully helps both sides to have a
Mhm.
good business relationship.
Mhm.
And so I know that one thing that you and I both wanted to see incorporated into the contract was the timeline schedules and the very specific information that was just vaguely referred to in the presentation.
Yeah,
Correct.
and that's one of the things that came out of our original discussions when we were first putting the RFP together is that we did want to have some spots where we could say, are we where we need to be at timeline wise?
Mhm.
And also have those as enforceable contract points.
Yeah, so we not only had the to-do list, but we had the timeline to compare it to.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So we just wanted to make sure that we weren't left scratching our heads with, why is this being delayed, or is it us or them, or we want to just keep things moving forward and not get bogged down.
And so Kathy and I will continue to keep everybody updated
that.
on.
And you're working with that with Mike?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shirley, are you aware of that going on?
I did talk with our city attorney and he asked that I review those, and so it's good to hear this tonight. So you'll make sure that staff is included as to what, so that we're not doubling up. I mean, I don't need to
Right.
talk to Mike if the
We don't talk to
agency-
Mike directly, and so if, as the city administrator,
Uh-huh.
if you are the one that is interacting with him,
Mhm.
and you can be the intermediary for us and the attorney. That would be,
Maybe you could type up or get those notes to me as to what you would like to see different. Is that
absolutely,
possible? Okay, that sounds good.
absolutely.
Hopefully next week we will be dealing with the attorney on he wants to go over the changes that we have, so that'd be great.
I will
Very
send you a
good.
red line copy of.
Okay, that sounds really good, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and so now we are going to talk with you, Irv,
Yeah.
about what it is that you're thinking and
I'm thinking about a lot of things.
I bet. And just so you know, Irv, there is, it's not likely that we're going to be able to give you any absolutely firm answers tonight, but we can start opening up some different possibilities to help just point you in a direction. And Shirley is very knowledgeable in, how to get these things done as well. And so he had a barn that
Yes.
burned, or a garage that burned down. So you're
It
up to
was a barn.
speed.
Yeah,
It was a barn?
Yeah, a
Okay.
historic
But
barn.
it was a historic building. It was very sad to see
And
it
an
go, but
arsonist did it when it burnt down, so an arsonist.
yeah, we had an arsonist in town.
Still running those.
I know it's over in township and it killed chickens, this last go around with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was in the paper.
Oh, I didn't know that on here.
So.
So,
Ain't no kid,
No.
so, well, anyway, Shirley gave me this planning and zoning, information, it's just when I got here. But it says, a non-conforming or structure damage more than 60% of its appraisal value, exclusive of foundations. The acts of God or an enemy shall not be restored or reconstructed and used as before the happening, unless 60% is still left. That can be restarted within 12 months. Okay, so I don't believe I need a conditional use permit. After reading, what I wanna do is rebuild the barn as my personal storage for now, and it can be, in the future, it can be transformed into something else. But to start with, I'd like to at least get some storage. That's why I came up with the container deal. And so I had the permit request in before the container idea came. So then I'm like, well, the permit isn't gonna go through, so I put a privacy fence on there to hide my stuff. So for now, I'm just gonna have to deal with. I have to replace my maintenance equipment, materials and supplies and stuff, and I need a place to put it. So the conditional use permit, there isn't gonna be no impact on the neighbors by building a 30 by 40 Northland building. And it's compatible with B1 and it's historical. Which kind of makes me think that we have a unique opportunity for something for the future with that thought. There used to be 4 buildings on there. And I think that's probably why it's called the historical district. So it may be possible that there could be 3 or 4 more buildings put on there as a small business park for small businesses. I don't know, I doubt it if you guys have seen this, but this is what it used to look like, that lot.
Yep, I have seen that. It's pretty good.
So Irv, are you asking 2 things? Are you asking to have like a storage container to store your things until you?
No, I think he was
build
doing
your-
Northland is what he was looking
Well,
at,
I'd rather spend my money on the permanent building.
which is the Northland.
Yeah.
Type of a structure, but
Mhm.
then you get caught into a situation that there's no residence that's on it, so. And there really wasn't a residence that was on it, because it's zone B1, but it's historic B1. And so it kind of fits in a crazy area of where it's at and it's prime location for what there is with
Yeah.
what we want to develop for the
And,
city.
I was gonna sell it to my niece, cause she wanted to build a house on it, and then she said it's too close to all the traffic. So she didn't want nothing to do with building a house there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what I would want you to come tonight for is that
Right.
you're in the middle of trying to figure out what to do.
What I can do.
And he's trying to do it by code, but it's something that with the arsonist that burnt this thing down. You know, it put him in a situation where it's something that all of a sudden he's out of compliance of whatever he wants to do because nothing sits there, but it's a B1 property, which is nice in a historic part of downtown, because it's the first property you have coming across the bridge.
So let me,
You know what, where it is, right? Colleen, okay.
so let me ask, Herb, are you thinking about building one building or multiple or a big one that can be split?
I'd like to just start with one.
Okay,
Which is the one that he was looking at, Northland, and
Yeah.
Northland had a picture of what it was, but they wouldn't give you the
What do you
information
want me to pay up front for the,
before they could get the blueprints, so we could bring it here to have things done for him to.
I need to make sure it's possible before I do anything. But you know, I wanted to put it right down on Minnesota Avenue, right on that corner where my little garden shed is. But the water and sewer decided that it wasn't achievable to put the water and sewer line down there because they're all fiber optics. So they put them up top. So I just cleaned the barn site up, and that's where the start of the lot would be built in. And so
so did water and sewer,
Yeah, the
Limit
connection.
it's up there.
Yeah,
but
the
did they
connection.
limit it? Did they limit your options by placement?
Well,
I would have to grind through all the rock to get up to it,
Oh,
and then turn the grinder station on to go up the hill. That's why I thought, well, I'm gonna start up there first.
yeah, you got everything. up
yeah,
there.
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, they didn't run anything down Minnesota Avenue because of the amount of fiber that there is. It's
Yeah.
underneath there, and it's the main line that comes through for Bevcom. And I mean, it was supposed to be, I think the bundles were like about this big that were underneath there, and it's like they just couldn't reroute all of the optical, the fiber, and be able to redo it. So
Sure.
everything kind of had to come up the backside because of that.
And I don't blame them. I mean, they gotta do what they gotta do.
Well, and I don't want to complicate things, but I need to ask the question. Just coming from other cities, I've got limited experience in this city,
Yeah,
but coming from other cities, whenever you're dealing with a historic property,
yeah.
there's a different set of rules that apply to
Right.
those properties. And so I think that we need to look deep into our code regarding historic properties. And the fact that it's a B1, you know, on top of a historic, there are some different elements that
Yeah.
have come into play that we just want to make sure that we're adhering to our own city code as we're brainstorming with you on how to restore your property, which we certainly want to see happen. But with historic properties, there's usually unique sets of rules that apply.
Is it registered with the national?
No.
Yeah, it's not on the registry.
Then it
is
won't count? Well, that's
Yeah.
that's good to know.
So it's ideal property, you know, it's perfect, you know, for stuff to.
So you know, to your point on that, with some towns who've got a look and feel as far as aesthetics in a historic district,
Mhm.
if you want to take like Walmart for an example, it doesn't stop you from building a Walmart. Some towns, it's just your standard Walmart. It looks like every other town, but there are 2 or 3 towns, even in Minnesota, where if you go to their town and look at their Walmart, Walmart has had to face it with a little more aesthetically looking fancy brick to make it
Yeah.
blend in more with the rest of the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah.
Or you might have to make it look like a barn,
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
And
because-
that's kind of what I did with that retaining wall. I picked out the cobblestone wall.
Mhm.
And if the barn was there today, it would look unbelievable.
Mhm.
I think we're looking at two different codes. You have the historic business district and you have B1.
But
We
we've
need to
already-
determine.
But
which-
we've already established that if it's not registered with the Historical
Well,
Society,
No.
then it
This
doesn't
is,
necessarily
it's
fall
not that
into
the
that.
property's registered with it, it's that
The
everything from the bridge
It's called
Because
historic,
Tracy's
it's
is
called
called
historic
business.
downtown,
Got it.
okay, and that's
But it's a
historic
whole business.
downtown
So even
B1.
the open lots, if somebody wants to come in and build a new location in there, a new office, new restaurant, it would still have to look and feel to fit the aesthetics of what
Right.
the development.
I think we really.
And then we
look at it
kind of looked at some of
But
that
again,
stuff too.
it
so.
doesn't stop from building a barn. It just might, like you had mentioned, make
Make
it
it
look
look
like
like
a
it.
historic barn.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'd
Yeah.
like to do.
But I think I'm thinking in that historic district, I'm thinking there's like 0 lot lines and stuff like that that's involved. You might want to really check with Phil
Well,
to make sure our codes are, you
Yeah,
know,
and-
which code is gonna follow, you know?
It's all unclear to me what you're
Exactly.
able to even do in the historical business section.
Rebecca, you get any ideas?
I can look into it.
Well, I mean, this is ideal because I mean, for somebody that's coming in for a business, this would be
Oh, yeah.
fine, yeah.
Yep, I will say the challenge of the historic piece, I think if it was registered, there would be a lot of
Well,
But
money
it's
out
not,
there.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
not
in
that-
both.
You know, I tried to keep the old barn standing and I was keeping it up and trying to make improvements on it until this happened. Cause I wanted it to stay there because I liked the history of it,
Yeah.
you know, so. You know, I'm not gonna build a pink building or anything like that. So, and I've talked to Jan and he doesn't really see any problems at all. He doesn't want a mobile home there. And I don't plan on putting a mobile home there. So, you know, the pad's there. It's just a matter of, and I don't really think I need a conditional use permit.
Well, we'll figure out what we need with it. It's a unique situation that happened.
We looked at it, but there are such limitations and neither Renee or I have any, and we don't know really where to have him go to sit down and figure it out. Would the engineers know what can go in there?
That's why we thought at least to open this up so that you understand what he's trying to do, you know, that this is an issue. And it's a unique issue. It isn't something that's black and white. It's something that's.
But the issue is, he has an element of time that's not on his side. So we
Yeah.
have,
Because you
we
need
have
to
to look
protect
at
your
things
equipment.
fairly soon.
Well, I gotta do something, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Do we know of anything that says that he, for some reason, cannot do what he
Right,
wants to do? Cause
I
Well,
thought
it's only
exactly that, it doesn't sound.
If you put a building on it, like a garage or whatever that he was gonna do from Northland, it's like, it doesn't fit in our code because there's no permanent house that's on there, even though it's B1. You know, that it's kind of, you're in between off of this stuff that just.
Well, generally, isn't it
B1.
accepted, generally isn't it accepted in code that if it isn't denied, it's.
Yeah, that's kind of my thing. It sounds like there's nothing that we know of off the top of our heads that says that this won't work. And we're almost like looking for something.
Well, and now that I see Phil back up on the screen, Phil, have you been listening to this conversation?
Yes, and I don't know if the commission saw some of the emails that went back and forth on this, you know, a couple of weeks ago. There's a couple of issues here. One, he had a building that burnt down through no fault of his own. And so, you know, that's part of the situation. It is in the B1 district. So it's, you know, it's a commercial district and the list of uses there are all commercial. There's no residential uses currently allowed in the B1 zone. So the question of putting a house there or a mobile home or something like that, right now it wouldn't be allowed in the code. A second question is there needs to be a principal use of some kind and not just a garage that's storing things for another use. You know, just like in a residential district, you can't just build a garage without a house next to it. So if there's a business that's being operated and this building might provide storage for that business, there has to be a business operated on that property. So just putting storage on there, unless it's a storage business, you know, then it's different. So we get into some of the fine lines here. So just putting up a storage building that's being used for some other purpose right now isn't allowed in the code. But I think everyone agrees that some reasonable use should be able to be put to this. And if there is a possibility of commercial buildings to operate businesses on here, that's absolutely allowed within the B1 code, and that could be pursued here.
So really, what I'm hearing is, Bill, what you're saying, so if this gentleman would decide that he is going to do, say, a boat storage business.
Or
Classic car.
a lawnmower tractor storage business. A lawnmower storage business.
Well, the whole thing is I used that barn for my storage because I had a tree farm. I sold the tree farm in June. So my equipment was in there being stored. So the guy I sold the tree farm to, he probably needs storage.
So I mean,
So I can lease some of the space out to him. But to start with, I need a building to come up with more ideas, to work with, because I've only had 2 months to deal with this, and winter is coming and I want to get something done. But on the land usage page that we have here for B1, it says building structure or use accessory to principal use. Now, I don't know what that means, but to me, it's telling me I can put up a building if I have a principal use. And
Exactly.
I need to store my maintenance equipment to take care of the property and the materials and.
would that work, Bill?
Yes, yeah, and accessory use again is something that's secondary to the main use of the property. So again, if there's a business, you can build the storage building that supports the business, but not just the storage building by itself. And you know that we were talking about storage as a business, you know, like a mini storage facility. That again in the current code is not allowed in the B1 district.
No, it's not many, it wouldn't be many storage.
It would be your own, it would be
I
a
mean, I think-
company, you could do a company that you would be doing. it.
Well, and I can take part of that building and turn it into somebody's office for their business.
I got a lot of tools. Are we gonna start a rental business?
Well, there's things that can happen there. I mean, I'm not gonna need that whole space.
We-
Bill,
We
is
have
there a
consent for
percentage of the
business.
building that would have to be rented? Guys, for a second here, please.
Business.
Is there, if he were to build this barn, this storage facility, what percentage of it would have to be rented out for the storage of other people's property to make it legitimate for the B1 district it's in?
Well, I'm not sure there's a percentage that's listed in the code, but you have to, with a straight face, be able to say the building on this property is being used predominantly for such and such a business. You know, and you can't build a storage building for your personal equipment and rent out 5% of it to something else and call that the principal use. So yeah, this is it's a tricky situation that you know is unfortunate. You know, the ideal would be if there's a new use, a new business that could be put on this property, that would be it. But simply replacing kind of a personal storage building isn't something that right now strictly meets the codes you've got in place.
Could we work off of a variance to that, Phil?
Well, you can't have a variance to the use. You can have a variance to a number, you know, like setbacks and height and things like that. But the use itself wouldn't. You could certainly alter the code. You could amend the code to add or modify uses in ways that you think are reasonable here. You know, that would be a route to go.
Would we be able to do it with a conditional use permit and not adjusting code?
Well, if you know, conditional uses are listed in the code as here's a conditional use, and you can you know, attach reasonable conditions to it. So you know, in that sense, you'd look to the use table that's in the code now and see, well, what are the uses that are allowed by conditional use? And if you wanted to add, you know, storage use, but right now it's quite clearly not permitted as simply a storage use. So there could be, you know, that could be one avenue that you could pursue.
Well, one thing I thought we discussed here not too long ago, Phil, is we were talking about interim uses.
Yes,
Or
that too.
An interim use on this until they decide something else.
Yes.
I'm thinking there should be another business building right down on this.
Your storage would be the interim use until you get.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be. And I think you just added an interim use section to the ordinance here recently. And so you could allow this, but then that has to have a sunset date, either a date certain that you say he can have this interim use for 2 years, or an interim use until something else happens. And you know, the trick with that is that if you say until something happens and that something never happens, then it's there forever. And that I've seen with interim uses. So if it's a use you really don't want to see there permanently, then the interim use should be tightened down in some fashion.
So didn't we talk when we were having that interim use discussion for that code change? Couldn't some of the changes be change in ownership of the property?
Yeah.
Was that one of the interim uses we had discussed previously?
Yes, that would be an acceptable, you
So
know,
instead of coming out with
part to put in there. Yeah.
instead of coming out with a date, we could do an interim use for your ownership of the property. It's just, were you to sell the property, then they'd have to follow whatever the code said at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You know,
I,
one of the reasons I bought that property is because the lot that my house is on, the house takes up the whole lot, so I can't even have a garage. So,
Mhm.
you know.
So we've got some ideas, I think,
Yeah.
right now, there's nothing we can do tonight one way or the
Well,
other.
I
So,
understand,
yeah.
that's,
But we've come, I think, with some ideas on how to get around this to be able to do something, which is working more with the interim.
Well, an interim use for 10 or
permit,
15
years,
something like
you
that.
know, and, or
About
till the
that.
property sells or something along those lines, so.
well, I might have 10 years to live, you might not run out of the.
Rebecca's looking a little bit funny.
You say attorney is gonna flip.
Well, I mean, this whole thing happened with the arsonist. It wasn't like this
Oh,
was
yeah, no, I just
something
heard
with.
15-year interim over here,
Well,
that's
you
what I
know,
would.
no, but I'm just, we're trying to come up with
Of course.
something to do
You know, I
this.
wanted to keep the old barn up there.
Oh, I know.
And build down on Minnesota Avenue, because that's the ideal spot for a business.
So we don't have something somewhere that says if you have a building and everything's fine and somebody burns it to the ground, that you can't just rebuild it and have it up to code. There's something that says, sorry, you're screwed. That's what we have.
That's what it kind of comes down to,
That's
yeah.
exactly what
I'd like to hear what
Still at that
Shirley, I'd like to hear what Shirley has to say here, please.
60% is on it.
We did find something in the code today, and it's 151.069, and it says non-conforming use damaged. So it talks about, but it says that it has to have, you know, the structure has to only be 60%.
Yeah.
damaged, and then he has a year, and that's why I thought maybe he could, or the planning commission could help him, because he has, you know, within a year of this happening. And I know back in the city where I live with, and we had a tornado come through. And just because something was, if it was damaged, we kind of looked to see how we could help rebuild
Right.
so that people could stay there. And I would think that this ordinance, but this is the only thing that I found in your.
Which one was it again?
It's
155,169.
15169. And that talks about damaged, but, you know, what's unique, I think, about this lot is that it's a lot all of its own. I said, couldn't you combine it with your lot? But because it's
Yeah,
different
street.
zoning and there's a street in between, right? So he couldn't go in and have the lots combined. So I would think that the attorney or somebody here would, because I said to Renee, what would happen if we had a tornado go through town? It just knocks them
Yeah, it modeled everything.
Yeah, and you've got these small lots and you've got different zoning, but.
Well, it's kind of ridiculous anyways. What's 60%?
Right.
Who's gonna measure that?
That's right.
Well, what if it's 59? What if it's 61? Who's the person that goes out and makes that determination?
I don't
That's
know, but-
ridiculous. I'm sorry,
What if we
that's just.
what if we can count the foundation as 40%, you know?
Yeah, that's-
60%.
No, it says.
60% of its
exclusive the
appraised value,
foundation.
so-
Well, there was no appraised value
we
because
could
of the age,
amend
and
that
couldn't
part.
insure it either.
It wasn't allowed to
But your city probably doesn't want just, you know, if it's a business that he could build there, that's one thing. But if he just wants a farm there, I don't think that's gonna fit the zoning.
No, and it's not right now as it
No.
sits.
I think that you should be able to be back to what, if it was okay before and the new structure you put on and you make it up to code of what's in that area. I can't believe that we have something that says, well, yeah, tough.
Because
you're out
here
here
what
a
it
lot.
says is, so Bill, Bill, I do have a question for you. So the
Sure.
60% that's in that Shirley had found, is the 60% something that you could do a variance on? I don't know if it is or not. I'm not.
Well, I always heard you can give a variance to just about any number in the code. I would defer to the city attorney on that. I wouldn't,
I want to get, because bring on and see
Well,
what.
I believe it had a dirt floor, didn't it, or?
It was full of horse manure
Well, that's close enough.
underneath the floor.
Who's compost?
Under the floor.
The floor,
Yeah.
the floor was composted.
And there was a
Shirley? Yeah.
1877 anvil underneath the corner of the
Is-
building.
Is this something we could have you talk with the city attorney about to see what our options might be? I think you've got kind of a flavor of what we're all discussing here. Kind of a rough consensus, not that we can say yay or nay on anything at this point, but
Right. And
at least to see what options are out
Yeah,
there.
to find out, to continue the brainstorming
Yeah.
and expand the circles of that just a little bit.
And with your experience with the tornado, maybe you've got some folks you can ask, and then from those,
That makes sense.
bring one or two and see if they're an option with the attorney.
And I'm not sure, are any of your zoning ordinances, is that anything that's being looked at, or is it just with WBS, or is it, or?
WSB, gonna rewrite our code.
They are, you know, and maybe your engineer can say, you know, is there something that maybe could be rewritten? Because your town is unique with different zonings.
Well, that's right. And Rebecca, maybe you can find a business that might be interested
As soon as
in.
we know what kind of businesses we're looking for, let's do it.
Well, that particular building would be up and out of the way of the.
It would help with that, you know,
Well,
because
I think he's got a great idea about having like a small business incubator. I mean,
Do you know what it looks like?
That's a wonderful idea.
Well, I kind of would like to see it look like it did in the.
oh, that was
In the
such a
past.
unique barn. That was.
Well, and one of the things it does say in this particular piece that Shirley did find is within 12 months, and then the architectural design and building materials get approved by the commission. So, so one of the things would be
Yeah,
if
I mean, the one.
find something and we can figure out how to work that is, it would come back, so it would still look and feel old as the materials would, and that would come back to us.
You have a farmer's market on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You have a
donated.
farmer's market on there.
I donated to.
You have a farmer's market on there.
Yes, I do.
Okay. You have a farmer's market, you have a business on there.
And I got a honeybee hive.
Okay. Okay.
Need to get you a checkbook that says something came before.
Yeah.
Well, I have.
Let's keep that on that after. No, it's, I think for zoning purposes, there's not much we can discuss beyond this, but there's options out there, and I think after the meeting, that's just something that should be talked about afterwards. Since we do have somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not gonna just, you don't want to do something.
Right.
All right. Ready to move.
But it is a really unique opportunity for the future of Orinoco to say, you know, to do something there.
Rental place or something.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully
so
that
much.
helps Herb a little bit, and we got Phil who'll kind of work with us, I
Yeah.
think, wherever we can to be
You
able
guys
to.
wanna keep that? or-
Well, somebody ought to pass it around, look at it.
And so once again, you know, unfortunately, we can't make any promises,
Right.
but we are absolutely open to researching this to whatever degree we need to.
Yeah.
To see if there is anything that can be done
Yeah,
with our current code and zoning and all of that kind of stuff, so.
right.
But I think this is pretty good with the interim use, gives us an option to be able to look at that.
It's a
You know, to
tool.
be, it might be the easiest
It's a tool
path
we
of
didn't
least
have 6
resistance.
months ago, yeah.
And Northland said they could put it up this winter if it was approved, so.
But they won't give us the drawings yet, will they?
I went down there today, but Chris wasn't there, so I'll go back tomorrow and.
And see if you can't get that, cause if we had at least the layout what it was, then we can kind of work around and then we've got enough for the building inspector too, to be able to take a look at.
Yeah, and I just wanna start out with a shallow building and then get some ideas and go from there.
Yeah.
Just to get it started.
Mhm.
You know,
So what the code says is you'd want to look at architectural design and building materials. So when you talk with Northland, ask them about that. What do they have that would fit those two, that would get that historic feel you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah,
they said they could do whatever. You know, but
tell them they got a good challenge here.
I wanted to.
On with us.
One thing to make sure that they look at her is to make sure that when they're designing it, that it's designed for basically your 2-foot rafters, so you can do a commercial building on it. So you don't have to add rafters later, and they had that issue with the building over here.
Shirley needs to say something.
You know, where in our area up north, they're starting to do a lot of them, and I'm not exactly sure what the name of it is.
The
It's like-
shelves, barn dominium.
Yes, right. Have you
Shed
ever
house.
thought of that?
What?
Or is
Maybe
that
to-
not zoned? for
See,
that?
like
Yes.
my thinking is to just get started with it and then come with another idea to the planning and zoning in the city to see, am I able to do this? Am I able to do this? You know,
Yeah, 'cause right now. it's gotta
I
be-
just think about things and come up with ideas after I get started.
Airbnb count? Like you can make the upline Airbnb. And then you can
Business.
store on the main part.
But that would be,
It's a hotel, the
That would
business.
be-
but that would be residential, then,
Yeah.
yeah, it's our
Maybe.
viewing.
You and Shirley and you could get together and kind of look at what our code says. You kind of know what's out there as far as opportunities, and you've definitely got a good eye for how you want it historic looking and.
And our city attorney will let us know if we can do any of it.
I
Yep.
listen to everybody
Yeah.
about ideas. I mean,
Christmas
I
tree.
talk to a lot of people.
So I'd say, make sure you've got their phone numbers before you leave.
You know, like the stone wall, I'd like to put a split rail fence on. Stuff like that.
So I think we gotta move time to move.
And
on.
I'm with Scott. We want to help you, most definitely. We're gonna dig deep to figure out what it is we
How we
can
can
do here.
do this.
Well, I want it to be an attractive lot, you know, as a historical lot, you know, I want it to look that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Irv.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing your ideas.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Well, you guys, do what you gotta do and I'll just keep my ears open.
Thank you.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
Come down and bug you all the time.
You're always welcome.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're gonna move into other business. Thank you so much, Irv. And we are doing a formal introduction of Rebecca Charles, our CETA rep. So if you'd like to do whatever it is that you're here to do, girl.
Hi, I'm me.
Hi, you.
I am your new CETA rep. I will be here every Thursday, except on meeting weeks, in which case I'll be here on a Tuesday. So that'll be the fourth Tuesday of the month anyway. Just so that you guys are aware, the EDA right now, we're getting ready to do a really large, community input process, community engagement. So we're going to be sending out a very large mailing to every single resident and property owner of Orinoco. And then what we're gonna do is also host on the 26th of February, there'll be an in-person event. They'll get all of that information in a packet in the mail, which will also include a survey. Those surveys are gonna cover everything from parks to public utilities to development. What kind of businesses would you like to see come to your town? It's going to cover all these different sections, and there will obviously be a planning and zoning section. We had heard that you guys were looking at some potential community engagement as well, and we thought maybe we could collaborate and try to include what it is that you guys are looking for within our mailing. We just got a $5,000 grant from Compeer Financial. We were just awarded this week so that we can pay for the entire mailing out of that money. So we won't even have to worry about spending a single taxpayer dollar on the entire thing. And that'll include return mailings and all of that fun stuff. So I'm mostly wanting to know what kind of information or what kind of engagement you guys were looking at doing and what we can do to kind of help and
Well,
team up.
you want to talk about what WSB had suggested, so.
Well, they talked about pop-up booths. They talked about doing them at the Shell station that's up the road, talked about doing them at
Tilly's?
Gold Rush Days.
No, Tilly's, so because we have
Tilly's.
to wait too long for Gold Rush. We
Yeah.
have to get going at the front. The
Uh,
thing that I was thinking about, if you had 300 people at the fire department of what they did this last go around, you guys have a way to get the community engaged, okay? Maybe we can come up with something
A joint
that
event.
would be at
Well, I
that
know.
time, because that, people go to that, okay? I mean, that's the only thing in town that seems
So when
to,
we had the planning for that event the other week, it was the Lions Club and the first responders and the fire department, all three of us together. And there were some really good ideas, so I think we could
that
definitely
would
get
be a
some synergy
really
between
good way
those.
to do it.
If we just set up a booth at that event and just sit there and get ready to,
Well, we gotta
Take
figure
people-
out what event we could do with that, but I mean, that's where we tend to
You
get more
say, oh,
people.
we're just gonna have an EDA meeting at City Hall, come and meet us.
well, no, we're gonna have ads in the newspaper for it.
Right, but even if you're just saying this is what we're doing,
What we're gonna be
Or what-
saying is that we're looking at trying to get a good look at our next 10-year scope. And we want to know what it is that the community members actually want from us. We want to make sure that our thoughts are on the same playing field as our actual residents.
Okay.
So that's kind of how we do it. We do a lot of push on the, community input matters, your input matters. That's kind of the big focus of it. And then just so that they can help to create the picture for the next 10 years.
so what's kind of the deadline for your mailing and for the campaign layout? I
We
miss.
would like to do the mailing in early January, so I know I'm not giving you guys a lot of time.
That's doable though, really.
I mean, WSP is really enthused about doing it, and this is the start point that they're looking at too, which is, I mean, we're both running parallel to what's going on, that would make sense to be able to do it, you know?
Yeah,
I would like to not duplicate effort if we can. and
exactly.
go
That's
ahead.
why I'd love to
And
take
maybe
whatever
out
you
of
guys
this
want.
first one, maybe we do find out that there's areas maybe we need a second little focus on afterwards, but then it's not quite as big of a load to carry.
Yep, and the in-person event is a lot more, people are gonna move around. It's not just sit at a table and fill out a form. People are gonna be going to things on the wall for different topics and being able to like actually interact with them on multiple levels. I don't know if you guys have ever, well, I'm trying to remember what it's called now.
And like different stations?
Yeah, so like one of them might have a map and say, is there an area that kids can't get to school from?
Mhm.
And we need sidewalks, okay, mark it on here. So just gives people the opportunity to do that without putting their name on it. And that always is helpful. As soon as you make it anonymous, people get honest, so.
I think there's definitely opportunity there between zoning and EDA, and we can pull in the fire department and first responders. I'll speak for all of them, but.
Yeah, so any
Speak for
information
a
you guys
couple of them,
want,
but yeah.
take
I-
it.
But I would say if we did that, we could also involve the Lions group. I think they would be very open to looking at something like that. And if we can figure out some way to theme that all together and get some excitement going, I think
We
that's.
have,
certainly-
the new vehicle that there is for the first responders.
Yep, that would
Okay,
be
and you've
great.
got the six-wheeler that there is,
So we could
which
probably.
is, you know, kind of show and
I
kind
think
of
we can
do something.
accomplish
that's-
the goal of getting people pulled in,
Mhm.
and what we want to call it can be figured out afterwards, but
Right,
with the end goal being everybody gets pulled in for a nice night in Orinoco and an opportunity to get some input and see some fun stuff.
no, absolutely.
So I would say that I don't know if we need to recommend or anything from zoning, but I certainly think, do we need a joint meeting, or are you thinking just a planning session and we send one or two people to your planning session for this?
Well, we aren't actually having a planning session. This is what I do. So that's what we're kind of going with. I mostly just wanted to find out what kind of questions you guys might want to ask in that survey portion. The rest of it for the in-person event, we still have a lot of time on. But as far as that development of the, yeah, and I've reached out to, People's Energy. They've sent me a list of some questions that they wanted added in. Basically every department is gonna be getting at least an email from me that if there is something that you guys feel you wanna get an opinion on, whether it's a yes or no question, or it could be on a scale, it could be an open answer, but if there's something you guys are really thinking, I just wish I knew what the people thought about this.
What I would like us to do, and I don't have the answer here yet either, is when we can get that WSB contract negotiated and signed, as soon as we can get that signed, get them on the horn and just say, we've got an opportunity to insert some questions and get some more feedback, and that will also give us another opportunity to engage and set up stuff at that other event
Do you
too.
know who your WSB contact is?
We do.
Who is that?
Lori Johnson.
I may be able to just give her a call and say, hey, if you were gonna be doing this,
She's
what
up
would
in the
you?
cities.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
So-
she's, yeah.
Yeah, so I will make sure that I call her. And then I
Very
can get
good.
some.
And I'll make sure you've got my phone number too, so. you can
Yes,
involve
and
us.
I got business cards for those of you who don't have them.
I'll take one.
I was thinking that the younger gal that was with WSB
Your
was.
business cards for the engagement.
Yeah, she
Chanel.
does. Yep, she does as well, so.
Okay.
But Lori will.
But Lori will direct
She'll
Rebecca
find
to
it.
wherever it is that she needs to go.
Yep.
But I think that that's
I
the
love it.
best place to send her, definitely.
I'm wondering, you know, given the proposal we had last meeting, we want to ask some question, maybe just a question about how do people feel about apartment buildings or quadplexes or
Well, and that is one of the,
octoplexes.
yeah.
And
one
there's
of
a huge housing section that's kind of put together already that's like, what kind of a building, a facility do you live in? What kind do you think that the city really needs? And it separates between townhomes, condos, single family, rural single family. So it'll have every option in there.
One of the
Okay.
things that they had recommended, or they had talked about that they would do in their focus was when you're asking that question, instead of writing out the words, just show pictures. Here's,
Yeah.
which one of these pictures would you want to see?
The only problem with that is that they become really heavy. Because the ones that we send out are probably about $1.26 a piece.
Yep.
If I can get more paper in there, I think I can do that, but otherwise it just takes up so much space to do
Or,
photos.
Maybe
Another
more
option that-
live events.
yeah, another option they had talked about too was just making sure we've got our codes and people can scan them with their phones and actually get to a bigger survey and.
Yeah, and actually, we will be making a QR code that'll be used in the advertisement in the newspaper as well as posters and inside the little packets, because in the packets, there's gonna be like a small card that'll have all of the information. It'll be similar to the one that'll be in the newspaper. But I like to put a little magnet on the back of it. You can stick it on your fridge and then you could.
heavy.
Right, and then I make them in nice bright colors so you can't forget about it. But at least then people have something in their homes that they can have ready to go.
Well, you know, one of the other things that might be interesting to ask in the survey would be, ask the city about, what do they think of lot sizes? Is it something? they
Well, I think
entertain?
Because you're probably not gonna get a lot of people
They don't
understanding one way or the
Throw
other.
that out there that,
Do you have a deadline for your January cutoff for questions?
If I could get it by the end of the first week in January.
When do we meet?
Well, it's gonna be after
It'll
that,
be the
but,
second week.
but if you could talk to her WSB,
Mhm.
okay, I think that she's gonna come up with ideas that they want to.
Right.
You know, but I think that combining these two, it's a perfect time to be able to do it where
Right.
you can, you know, move ahead together, you know, which is what you really want to have, you know.
Well, right. I mean, does the 26th of February, does that work for you guys for the live
Thank you.
date?
I know that they were working on it the first part. I didn't bring the book for WSB, what they have listed off of
Okay.
that stuff, but, if you need, you're gonna be here. Gosh, are you gonna be here next Tuesday then? Or next
Not
Thursday?
Next Thursday, just because I'll be on my way to my parents' house for.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, I can kind of get the chart that they have,
Mhm.
right, okay, the per chart that kind of explains a few things and what they
Oh,
were.
if you can even take a picture and email it to me, that would be, because I'll zoom in like crazy on them. I'll bring them up, so.
did WSB have their timeline in there?
Yeah, it was.
For certain stuff? Okay.
Okay.
You know, that's what I'm saying. That way it could kind of help. You could take a look at it and see how
And we
that fits
haven't
together.
Actually announced anything yet from the EDA. Obviously, we've been waiting on getting the surveys and all those things ready to go. If we needed to postpone, I think we might have the ability to. I just would need to have a couple chit chats with a few people, but it would be possible if we needed to push it off. I just know they were trying to get it done as quickly as possible. But if we pushed it off to do the mailing in February
That would,
instead, that could potentially,
yeah,
would that give you guys a lot,
that
better?
would give us one more meeting in there to finalize if there's questions, as well as hopefully get this contract signed with feedback for you there.
Okay,
Would also let you have the ability to come and talk with first responders, fire department.
yeah, and I'd really
I
like
know
that.
we've got some long-term plans out there we've been chatting about too, so.
Well, I will reach out to those
Yeah.
EDA board members and then, I will shoot you a message to let you know for sure, and then everybody can find out through there.
That too, doesn't the fire department do some spring events too, like? they do-
Yeah, but that's gonna be too late.
Right, no, but I'm
Not for
talking
the
about the
question.
community engagement after this survey.
Yeah,
or
we'll
this
talk after the meeting. if
Yeah,
you want to.
absolutely.
That's all.
All right,
Thank you, Rebecca.
that's great.
Pleasure
Exciting
meeting
stuff.
you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, other
Happy to be here.
business, item B. All of you have this meeting attendance sheet in your packet tonight. You're gonna wanna fill it out, all the meetings that you have attended, those of you who are wanting to be paid for it. If you were at the RFP interviews and all of that, the special meetings, I've got all those dates on here. If you wanna take a snapshot of this, it might make it easier to get it all filled out, so. And then you need to fill out a W-4 also and get that into Renee at the earliest possible time. So. Finally, we've got a discussion that Kathy wanted to bring forth. It is regarding ESST earned sick and safe time that is becoming effective January 1, 2024. So Kathy, you want to take that away?
Yep, I just wanted to make sure you guys were all aware. There's just, Minnesota loves to pass some obscure laws. One of these is this earned sick and safe time. I know with other city areas, if you're a regular staff member, it's absolutely gonna impact you as far as the number of hours you work and some tracking of hours. I don't know that it'll necessarily impact us, but we will probably be putting in some more meetings this next year. And with all the extra work on the RFP and trying to rewrite the code, we'll probably beyond our regular one, have some workshops that we'll be attending. Depending on the length of them, hour-wise, it could push us close to, what is it, 80 hours? And I think it's 110 hours before it really, you'd earn a single hour of basically a little bucket of sick time for zoning members. But it sounds really odd. Unfortunately, we don't have any control on the odd language they use when they write state law. And so we're kind of stuck with this one, just so y'all might want to start thinking about the time and the hours that we spend. We might have one more ridiculous thing that we have to track next year until they can fix the state law. But I won't hold my breath on them fixing it anytime real soon, so. Just
Shelley,
wanted
is
to
this
make
something you can help us figure out?
Volunteer, does it matter?
Which is that, the second?
The earned
It's
sick and
volunteer
safe
time.
time?
It's bizarre.
So.
The way I
You think
explained it in
get
other cities,
More
it'll
ridiculous.
affect both
They do.
part-time and full-time employees. It will affect some fire department. We've found out, I mean, that it will affect some fire departments that are hourly paid. That they, but I think that we'll just wait and see if the
Yeah.
attorney will explain it and will.
Yeah,
I
so
think that there's another, program that's coming aboard the next year, January, that has to do with.
so
kind of-
hopefully,
That will take a lot more documentation and so forth. This year is really, you have to work 80 hours to really ever get that first, be able to call in and say, oh, I'm sick, I'm not coming to the
Yeah,
meeting.
so it's more paperwork, but it's just out there. Thank your state legislatures. I feel like I'm singing, I'm just a bill, sitting at Capitol Hill, but there you go.
Yeah.
It's one more of those weird things that's out there, and
Three and a half
hopefully
hours
you can,
or a month there, that's 40
if we
hours.
can find out in a month or two that it doesn't apply to us, and none of us will put in that many hours by then, and I will.
Definitely, if you have a job, it will affect you.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
It will affect the employer much more than.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a couple different ways, but anyway, that's a different discussion. So that's all I had is you've heard about it, it exists. Hopefully, we don't ever have to get to that point, but it's possible with
Guys,
all the work on the code next year that we will. That's it.
okay, so we are through our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Meeting is adjourned at 8:28 PM. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, have a good night.
I'm Colleen.
Thanks.
Yes. What's your last name?
Slater, S-L-A-T-E-R.
7.76. That was a whole lot closer.